on pins and needles right from the start. I see you in my grandchild's eyes, and now my child is deployed and not by my side. I'm so nervous, I started to quilt. Freedom is earned, that's how this country was built. Gathered my fabric, dotting and thread, just thinking of you, it's all in my head. Thanks to our military, thank you for our brave. Thanks for all that you do, keeping us safe. They are not alone, they have families too. Of our troops, this quilt is dedicated to you. Nights are long and we're a world apart, making this quilt with you in my heart. Tears in my stitches, adjusting its length. Pray every day to keep you safe, with courage and strength. Thanks to our military, thank you for our brave. Thanks for all that you do, keeping us safe. They are not alone, they have families too. Of our troops, this quilt is dedicated to you.
Live from the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Good morning, Gifted Crafters, and welcome to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Good morning out there. I see everyone coming into the chat and settling in. I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. And today is Memorial Day, so it's a wonderful day out there. Okay, at least down here in South Florida, we're having some pretty nice weather. We were supposed to have some really stormy weather, and it hasn't really come about so much. Few storms here and there, but nothing too bad. So a little bit hot outside. So let me know where you are tuning in from and what the weather is like in your area. I see we've got some people from all over the place here in Maryland. Nice. Okay. Looks like everyone's having a fantastic weekend. Okay. You overslept. Oh boy. Awesome. Okay. I see it's starting to settle down a little bit. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Faker McFake, Joanna, Robin's Quilt Basket, Rennell, 1 Minute Tips. Hey, from Canada. Hello, Belinda, Robin's Quilt Basket, Jenny. Thank you all for tuning in. Okay. It's starting to settle down just a bit here. Yeah, okay. I see it settling just a little from San Antonio, Texas. Hey, Jenny. Okay. Well, again, welcome, welcome. And if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ, and I host these daily sessions to just talk about any kind of crafting event. We like to bring in different segments, and this is a little bit different from our Saturday Crafternoons that we host as well. If you're able to join that, that is on Saturdays at noon Eastern Standard Time. And then we do our daily morning show Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So thank you all for tuning in. I know that a lot of people are off today, so I guess you've got that extra day to just kind of relax a little bit. And I hope you guys are really having a nice time with friends and family. Nice, from Missouri, Pennsylvania, all these, I see all these people tuning in. New Orleans, hey, Wyoming. Okay. Awesome. Well, again, today is Memorial Day, so I hope that you guys enjoyed our little intro earlier. We changed it up. That is our patriotic quilt song that is available. We do have it on a CD, and it's something that, you know, I think touches the hearts of many people, as, you know, this holiday is really an important holiday. And, you know, I think it's really nice to be able to kind of reflect and think back of all that they have done for us and thank them for their service. I mean, it's really just honoring everyone who serves. So we have a little quote for you. So today we pause with heavy hearts and grateful spirits to remember the heroes who gave everything for our freedom. May their courage live on in our memories and their sacrifice never be forgotten. And I hope that's true to all of you out there who hold loved ones in your memories, and just grateful for everything they have done and thank them for their service. Alrighty, good morning, Kansas. Oh, you love that song? Awesome. Wonderful. Okay, so I think that we are ready. I know most of you kind of know that CD is available. If you'd like to get that, you know, just check out the link below. It'll take you over where you can buy any of our crafting CDs. We have volume 1 and volume 2 available out there. And we are kind of working on tinkering on some other ones. So we may have some news coming out to you guys at some point. Okay. So I think we are ready. Oh, Joanna, you belong to a Quilt of Valor group. That's awesome. Yes, that would be a perfect song. I have been trying to get them out to the Quilts of Valor so that they can use them for the ceremonies. And I really hope that, you know, you guys are able to do that, because I think the song really does touch a lot of people. At least that was the intention when we were writing the lyrics. Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you that tuned in on Friday, let's see, we have talked about the woven star. So we were doing the paper piecing block, and this is a free pattern that's available at the Fat Quarter Shop that you can download. And it does require that you purchase 2 of the foundation paper from their site. They're relatively inexpensive. It's just 1 pad of each design. And then once you do that, you have everything that you need. You just can use some scrap fabric and a background fabric. And then you would be able to make the courthouse steps blocks that we've been working on, and I have a few of them here. You will need to make, I think it's 40 or 41 of these, and then you would be making the second block, which is the woven star. And so we have quite a number here done. I am going to continue to go ahead and make some more, and you can see it's very scrappy. Just using a layer cake here, and the layer cake that I'm using is called Peace and Plenty. This is a Riley Blake design by Lori Holt, Bee in My Bonnet. And so it has many different colors on here, and I think it works really beautiful with this quilt. So this is the scrap fabric that I'm using, and then I'm just using a white on white background fabric. This is what I'm using here. And then that is all that you pretty much need for this particular quilt. So we've been working the courthouse steps. I showed you how to do these step by step. So we've completed these, and now it's just a matter of just repeating to make several of these. I believe there's about 41, I want to say, of these, and then 40 of these that have to be made. So once you do that, then you're left with having to make the woven star. And the woven star, guys, it's just so gorgeous. You can really see how beautiful it turns out. And the best part about these is, you know, some people are afraid of it because they're not a piecer. You know, maybe their things come out a little wonky, or they're not just 100% precise. The paper piecing really helps that. And it really keeps you on track, and the papers just make it so easy for you to be able to do it. So that's what we've been working on, and we started it off on Friday. So on Friday, we took out the sheets, we had all our cuts ready to go, and we were about to start kind of doing that on the paper piecing itself. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to pick it up where we left off and just continue on and make the paper piecing, of which we cut into 4 pieces, and we're going to go ahead and start putting that together today. Okay, so before we do all of that, you guys know we have some crafting news to kind of get to, so let's just come over to that segment and see what we have going on out there so that I can just inform you guys. Okay, so for part of our crafting news, we've got Lion Brands Yarn has a Memorial Day sale of 30% off of their yarn and their kits, and they're having that sale today from May 26th. You can get 30% off of yarn and kits. Whether you knit, crochet, or weave, there's something there for everyone. So check out some of their fun kits that they have available are called the Meadow Siblings Snugglers. This is a big kitty and a tiny bunny, so it's really perfect for any kind of little baby shower gift. They also have the Marisol Basket Tote, and that's your go-to kind of summer bag. That's for like those beachy days that you can use. And they also got Sugar Plum Throw. And these are some simple stitches and cozy textures that's perfect really for beginners. Now, you can have a great time just, you know, doing the little kits and things. They're just really nice little things that you can get without kind of breaking the bank on that. Now, they do give you a bonus. You can earn double Lions points on every order if you collect those kind of things. And you can use the code 25MEM30DP at the checkout so that you can get all of the savings. So, you know, just don't delay on that because, you know, the deal's going to end soon. So go ahead and try to get your discounts on that. Then we also have a little feel-good story. So this is for all my gifted crafters. CNBC's Make It website just featured Michael Odell, who's the founder of Legit Kits. And man, this was really an inspiration. So by daytime, Mike is a full-time nurse anesthesiast in Oklahoma City. And he's got a high-stress job that's about 10-hour shifts, and he barely has a moment to breathe. But what does he do on his day off? Well, like many of us, he loves to quilt. He started his Legit Kits back in 2020 after sewing Star Wars quilts for his son using foundation paper piecing, which is, you know, kind of like, you know, people call it like a paint by numbers type of thing, but with fabric. So they found, you know, he found that it was fun, it was easy, and that's what kind of sparked his new business idea. So he now, Legit Kits, brings in about $117,000 a month with a team of 11 people, and he helps to that they kind of all help him keep it running while he kind of, enjoys his coffee on his patio and takes his kids to school. So there's a lot of challenges with that that he's had recently, like the tariffs and Joann's closing. But he remains really optimistic, and he's launched an even smaller, more affordable quilt kit that allows you to kind of keep crafting. So as you know, I can't wait to start my owl pooter kit, and I'm just excited to kind of dive right into it, because this paper piecing project is kind of like my prep to get going on that project. So lots and lots of fun, multiple kits available, so you can go ahead and check those out as well. Okay, now we're going to go over to the Sunshine Coast, and we've got a quilt show going on. There's an event that you definitely don't want to miss. We've got a beloved gathering happening. It happens only every 2 years, and so it's back this May with quilts, creativity, and community spirit. It's being held at the Gibson's area at the community center on May 30th and the 31st, and the show's expected to draw about 600 visitors. It's going to feature lots of quilt displays, local vendors, hands-on workshops, and they even got some live music, so that's pretty cool. Now, this year the show is adding something special. They've got quilters inspired by local painters, which is nice. It's a beautiful mix of fabric and fine art, and it's showing how the stitching and the brush strokes come together in harmony. So that's pretty cool. Now, the Quilt Guild is also making big efforts to inspire our next generation of quilters with school field trips and beginner sewing classes being offered at the local library. That's pretty cool. Now they're gonna have games like fishing for fabric, technique workshops, a raffle, all kinds of fun things, and all of the proceeds are gonna go to the Guild's Comfort Society, which donates handmade quilts to newborns, hospice patients, local families in need, and first responders. Admission is $10, and kids 10 and under get in for free. So again, that's on May the 30th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then on May 31st from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Gibsons and Area Community Center. Whew, that was a lot. So there's a lot of thread for you guys today. So just remember, the more you know, the more you can craft with joy. So tons of stuff going on. I hope some of that you guys are able to attend. I think it's pretty cool to kind of find all of these events and just kind of, find other people in your community that are very interested in what you like to do as well. Okay, so I think we are ready to go, ready to get started. I think you guys have all your favorite little drinks in your hand, and if you haven't gone out to our food truck, I think our food truck is just about there. I am kind of working on my water still, but I think our little food truck, yep, there it is. Taking my little sip here. But we've got all kinds of snacks for you guys ready to go. Go on out there and grab your snacks. We've got coffee, we've got cookies, we've got pastries. We even have some soda and muffins. And for you healthy people out there, we've got carrots and kale, so you can make your little smoothies. Yes, the food truck's available, and best of all, no calories. You can have anything you want. So I hope you guys enjoy that. So lots and lots of fun there. All right, I think we are ready. We've got our news out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and see how far we can get on today's little project here. So let me just kind of put some of these away. I mean, these actually just came out so gorgeous. I really love some of these. They are really nice. I think this quilt is really coming together really beautifully. Okay, so Friday, we got our paper out. We cut it into 4, and let me just see if I can redo this one here, 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 and here. This is what we started with, kind of. Kind of, sort of, right? This is what we had. We went ahead and we cut it in half, and then we cut it the other way, giving us 4 triangles, right? And then we went ahead and we folded or pre-folded on all of the lines. That really helps later on. So we've got all our folds in on all 4 pieces, and we're ready to go ahead and start. Now, one thing to note on the pad itself, and I think you guys can see it here, you've got numbers 2 and 3 on each of the 4 triangles in a dark color. That is basically telling you that you want to put your scrap fabric on those pieces. All of the other numbers, number 4, number 1, and number 5 on each of the 4 triangles are referring to your background fabric. So you want to put your white, or if it's beige, whatever your light color is, those are the colors that you want to put down on those numbers. Now, if you remember on the courthouse steps, we kind of drew a line just to kind of remind ourselves so that I wouldn't kind of put the wrong fabric down. You can do the same thing here if you'd like. So if you want to just kind of put a little dot, a little circle, whatever it is that you want to put on here. I put it on the dark fabrics just to kind of remind myself, hey, yeah, this is dark fabric, not light fabric. So that way I put the right piece down. So it's just a little tip that I do just to kind of remind myself so I don't put the wrong fabric down. Okay, so let's put all of these away except for one. So you want to leave one out. And I'm going to try to put this somewhere where it doesn't go blowing somewhere. Okay, so we're left with the 1 triangle. So the first thing that you need to do, and we can kind of follow these along, so that way you guys can follow this with the instructions, because I want you guys to be able to do these on your own once this is over. So you've got your instructions here on the pad itself, right? This is on the woven star. As soon as you open it up, they've got some tips, requirements, cutting, and instructions, and it kind of tells you step by step. So we're going to kind of follow it. That way you can follow this along when you're doing yours. So now that you've got these all cut up, we're going to look at number 1, and it's basically going to tell you on the cutting section on the top, it tells you the placement and what each cut is for. So under the light fabrics, it told you that you needed 2 3 3/4 inch squares, and that is for placement 1. So we're going to go to our pile that has the 3 3/4 inch square, and that's my pile number 1, which I have labeled on that little piece of painter tape. And then what we did do is we went ahead and we cut that corner to corner. So right on the diagonal, we made that cut. And I mentioned to you guys on Friday, if you recall, once you make that cut, you want to be very careful not to handle your fabric too much. You don't want to move it around because now you have this bias opened up. And we all know that on the bias, it stretches. You can really stretch this and get this little piece very wonky, and you don't want that to happen. So once you cut it, try not to handle it too much and just be very careful. So just kind of move that over to the side, and basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric and you're going to flip your template over, and what you're going to do here is you're going to kind of line up your triangle on the opposite side. So you've got your number 1. You're basically lining up this triangle with a 1/4 inch seam. So you're going past the line here. And I'm going to get my cord, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this with the caterpillar. So let me just grab my cord here. Okay. Let me get this all plugged in and ready to go. Thing is in front of it. There we go. And it's got the little slot on the side here where you just plan to plug it in. So I like to kind of give it a little bit of slack here. There we go. Okay. Can you guys see that? All right. I'm going to set this over to the side a little bit because this is really important. You want to make sure that you place this correctly. So if you can see here, you've got this triangle right here. You want to make sure, and I'm going to leave it on this side, but for now, you want to make sure that you're placing your fabric not just on that corner, which is snugged up against the line. You need to pass that line, and you need to give it a 1/4 inch seam on this side as well as on this side. Okay, so you want to go beyond that line that they have, a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, because you're going to be sewing on the line. So if you were to line up your triangle right on the line, there would be nothing for you to sew. So you need to be able to capture this fabric. So you do have to go in a 1/4 inch on this end and on this end. That way, when you do sew on the line, you are actually sewing a 1/4 inch into that triangle on both ends. But now you need to do this not on this front side here. You need to flip this over, and you need to do that on the back. So that's where the light box kind of comes in handy, so that you can kind of see where that line is, and you can kind of push it up and know that you are covering that. So now if I flip this over, I can see from the shadow of my fabric that I am actually in a 1/4 inch. I'm right here. There's my edge of my fabric, which is about a 1/4 inch away from the line. And you want to do that on both sides as well. Okay. So what I do is, once I see that I have this in place, I like to kind of just grab my little glue stick, and I'm going to turn this over, and I'm just kind of dab a little bit of glue and just stick that right there, just so that it doesn't move on me. And then I can kind of, if I wanted to put some more, I can definitely do that if I don't want it moving around on me. So I like to just kind of put at least 3. And you can glue the back of your fabric, or you can glue the paper itself, whatever's easier for you. Once you do that, you're going to flip that over, and you'll see now that my fabric is right side up, and it's now glued to the paper with that 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so you can see that on here. See if you can see a little bit of the shadow. I don't think you can. But we have it ready to go right there. Okay, so that's where you want to be on that first step. And then you're going to be folding between the 1 and the 2. You're going to go ahead and do a fold right there. You're going to grab that at a 1/4 ruler or regular ruler, and you're going to bump it up right against that. And then you're going to cut any excess that you have. Now, I don't have any excess because I'm right at the 1/4 inch, but you don't necessarily have to be, right? You can still just kind of, I like to kind of just do it. You never know. You might have a thread or two. And it looks like there was nothing to cut here. So I think we are good. Oh, look, there was a tiny little piece. So let's go back and see. It's really tiny. Very, very little that I cut off. Tiny, tiny amount. But it's something, right? Okay, so now that you've done that, now we're going to line up fabric number 2, and fabric number 2 is a dark color. So that tells me that's going to be coming from my scraps. So if I look at the instructions and I look for placement number 2, it's going to tell you it's coming from the dark fabrics. And this is the 2 1/4 by 3 inch side. So let's see here. Move this over to the side. I'm going to keep this one here. And we're going to go to pile number 2. So let's see. 4 and 5. This is the 2 1/4 by 3 inch. Just double check here. Yep. I think it is this one. Okay. And let me grab one of those. Okay, now that one, 2 1/4 by 3 inch, placement number 2. Let me find the, sorry, this is the white fabric. Here we go. Here we are. And let me just double check here because I kind of moved the order around. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. See what happens when you take off your little stickers? Kind of throws you off a little bit. Alrighty. So we've got our fabric here. So here's our 2 1/4 by 3 inch on our dark fabric, which is our scrappy fabric. And we're going to flip this over and line this up. Now, I kind of eyeball it, but what you can do is if you really want to make sure that your fabric is going to be able to fit, you'll want to move this to the side where you see the numbers, and you just kind of want to put your fabric right over that number 2 and make sure that it is completely covered. And so you'll know that it is. And so we're going to flip it back over, and I'm going to line up my fabrics, and I'm going to do right size together. So your fabric should, your dark fabric should be facing down. Your light fabric will be facing up. And that's where you're going to hold that right there. You can do a little glue dot if you feel comfortable, or you can just hold it or pin it, however you decide to do it. I just kind of hold it with my hands, and I'm going to be flipping this over. And I'm going to bring this to my sewing machine, and we're going to go ahead and sew right on that line. So let's come over to our sewing machine here. Let me just scoot on over this way. Okay, we've got our sew cam on. And again, I'm going to align my foot right with the line on here. And I'm going to do a little bit before I hit the line. So I like to sew a little bit before the line and a little bit after the line. And I've set up my stitch length to be 1.5 inches. And you want it to be very short stitches because that's going to help you perforate the paper once you are done with the project. You can do it at a 2.5 inch, but it's going to make it difficult for you to take the papers off. You definitely want to lower your stitch length so that you get more of that perforated edge when you're taking this off. And now you're just going to go ahead and sew on that line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And like you said, I will do a little bit after. And then I'm going to lift up my presser foot and go ahead and cut my threads on that. Now you can have your little snips near you, and you can go ahead and kind of cut those threads as you go. Some people wait until the end to do it. I kind of like to cut them as I go along. Just makes it a little bit easier. So once you have that in place, oops, I missed a thread here. There we go. Once you have that in place, this is what the back of your paper is going to look like. And so all we're going to do now is kind of flip this over. And I'm going to finger press this down. And then I like to grab my little roller here. And I like to kind of roll that right into place. And this really helps to when you have a lot of the seams meeting it really helps to bring it down to the right place before you kind of are ready to hit this with your iron. So once you are ready to do that, I'm going to go over to my little ironing board, and I'll just kind of put that maybe here so you guys could see it a little bit. And then I'm just going to iron this right into place. Okay, that's all you're doing. Okay. All right. So once we have that all done, we're ready to kind of move on to the next thing. So you're going to turn your paper back around, and now you just did 1 to 2. You're going to do 2 to 3. And so the way you do that is you're going to look at where that line is between the 2 and the 3, and you're going to fold the paper on that line. And now this is where it gets a little tricky, because you have already, when you sewed the line, you did a little bit before and a little bit after. Why do I do that? Because I'm really reinforcing my stitches. But when I come to the fold, sometimes because I sewed a little bit over, it's going to kind of want to bend with the paper. So all I do is kind of pull on the fabric to release that stitch. And then I'll go ahead and I will finish my fold, pulling on that stitch, because I want my fabric to lay flat, because I'm going to be cutting that with my add a quarter ruler. So right now I have that folded. Grab my add a quarter ruler here and bump it up against the paper. So I have that nice and secure, and then I'm going to cut any excess fabric that I have here. Doesn't look like it's too much, so we're just going to go ahead and cut that. It's just that tiny piece, and that's fine. We're getting rid of that so that you have a nice flush line right there. So now we're going to flip this back over. And now that we have our flush line, we're able to line up fabric number 3. And fabric number 3 is, again, the dark fabric. And if you look at the book, it tells you placement number 3 is the 2 1/4 by 4 inch. So that is your longer one. So let me grab a different color here. Okay. And again, here is number 3. And my fabric does cover it completely. So we're going to flip this over. And I'm going to do right sides together. And I'm going to go ahead and line that up. There we go. Nice and on the line here. All fabrics are lined up. Hold that with my hands, and then I'm going to just flip that over and take it to the sewing machine again. And so now we're going to go ahead and sew on that line. So here we are. Okay. Do this a little slower, so. And if you get a little tired, just stop, readjust your hands, and then continue. Now, there's these little tiny dots, and I'm going to point them out to you guys in just a minute. Let me go ahead and lift this up. And these dots are going to be pretty important in a later step. So let me just show you. Well, I can show you this one, but let me show you this one so you guys can really see it clearly. On the paper itself, if you may have noticed, and I believe that I pointed this out last week, you've got these little tiny dots that you're going to see right on the paper itself. So these little profound dots all have a purpose. Those little dots are what you're going to line up with later on. So when you are doing your stitching on that line, you want to make sure that as you sew, you make sure that you hit those dots. try, I know it takes practice to kind of, you know, sewing on that line, but make sure that when you do, you are hitting your dot right on the line, because that dot is going to represent where you are going to line things up when you start assembling the block together. So you want to make sure that you hit that line. Okay, so now that we've got that all sewed up, we're going to flip this over. Again, flip the fabric. I'm going to hand press this down, grab my little roller, and then go ahead and roll. And you'll start to see now where these little bulks come in. So you have this little area where we've got 1, 2, and 3 fabrics all meeting on the same point. So that's where the little roller really comes into play, because you can roll that in there. Kind of helps the fabric kind of get where it needs to be so that this can lay nice and flat. And then you're going to go ahead and take this over to your iron. Bring that over again. And you're going to iron that flat. Okay. There you go. Okay. So now we've got 1, 2, and 3 all done. I'm going to grab my snips. I see a couple of threads here that I wanted to cut. Missed one there. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, and 3. Now we're ready for number 4. Number 4 is not a dark area. This is a white area. So you want your light fabrics for this. Oh. Okay. So let's see. So number 4, I'm going to go ahead and fold this back again. And you're going to fold on that line. And this is why it's just nice to have those pre-folds, because if you didn't pre-fold, you would have to kind of try to now go ahead and fold this with all the fabric already attached. So that's why the pre-fold just makes it a little bit easier. And so I do my pre-fold, and then I follow that line, and I'm going to tug on the fabrics. And I want to make sure that my fabric is laying flat and my fold is flat. So we pulled a few little stitches out here. I had to pull them out. You can see that here. That's what I pulled out. And that's totally fine, because we're going to cut that. That's just excess that's going to be cut. So now that we have this in place, let's bump up our add a quarter ruler to that excess fabric, and let's go ahead and do the cut. Make sure you give a little bit of pressure when you're getting towards that seam, because as it gets more bulky, it gets a little bit more difficult to go ahead and cut, because you've got some bulk there. So you really got to give it a little bit of a press when you're cutting those little excess pieces off. All right, I see a few comments here. You love my little blue ironing board. It's perfect for piecing. It is. It is. It really is. I love that little thing. Awesome. Okay, I think you guys are following along. What size are the blocks that I'm making? I believe it's 6.5 inch, but it ends up being a 6-inch block. It tells you here on the front, so it makes a 6-inch block. But you start off at 6.5 inches, and then you're going to square it off at the end, and it ends up being a 6-inch block. Okay, so we're ready to go. We've made the fold, we made the cut. Now we're ready to add fabric number 4, which we know is going to be our white fabric. So again, as we look at the instructions here, let me flip it over. There we go. So for the instructions here, placement number 4 is from the light fabrics, and this is the 3.5 inch square. So we're going to go ahead and take that 3.5 inch, which we haven't done this one yet. So let's grab that one. And 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.5. Yep. And for this one, again, we have to cut it on the bias on this one. So we need to cut corner to corner. Now, could you have done all the cuts ahead of time? Yes, but because this is dealing with the bias, I like to wait until the very last time to cut it, because if you cut it too early and then you start managing that fabric and pulling and tugging on it, you can easily warp it. So that's why I wait until the last minute, until I'm actually going to use it, to then be able to cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and go corner to corner here. Let me line this up. Corner to corner, and I'm going to grab my rotary cutter and I'm just going to hold this down and give that a little cut. And have fun. Let me just adjust a little bit. Didn't like exactly where that was falling. Okay. Alrighty. There we go. Got our nice little triangles now. Now this one belonged to the other one, so I'm going to move this over to that pile so I don't get confused. And this one now, stick that over to the side, is what you're going to use. Now this can get a little bit tricky. At first it kind of got me for a little bit, but you have to kind of think of how this is going. So this is a triangle here that we want to fill. So you want to make sure that your triangle is going to lay this way, not this way. You need to be this way. The same way as the paper. So if the paper is angled like this, that's how you want your fabric to end up being. So when you place it on the paper, you actually have to mirror that image. So you're going to be placing it like this in the back. So let's flip it over so I can show you. So here we want to do right sides together. So let me figure out where my right side is, because it's white on white, so it's a little hard. And I want to make sure that I place my fabric like this, because when I flip it, I want it to be angled out this way. Can you guys see that? Let me move this over a little bit. So again, I'm going to lay my fabric right sides together, and I want the mirror image of the paper. Because once I sew this down, when I flip this over, I want it to be angled out like that, right? So make sure that you do that. So then go ahead and line this up. You can hold it, you can pin it, however you need to do it. Flip that over, and let's bring this to our sewing machine. Okay, again, here we are. Line this up. Want to get it right on that line. I'm doing it a little bit before and a little bit after. And then you notice you've got two little dots here that you want to line up. You want to make sure that you hit that dot. This one is really important because we're going to be lining up these fabrics all together based off of that dot, so we could do a join. So let's go ahead and get that going. I'm going to take this nice and slow. Make sure I hit that spot. And then I'll slow it down again as I approach the next dot, making sure I'm hitting it. And then sew a little bit after. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lift this up. And yeah, I can see here, let me bring this a little closer so you guys can see that. We're hitting the dot right there. And we're hitting the dot right there. You really want to make sure you hit that, okay? All right. So now we're coming back to our light box. I'm going to flip the fabric over, and I'm going to press that down and put my roller on there. And you're getting all the seams. And then I'm going to just grab my iron and do the little press there. Okay. And so this is what it's going to look like before you do any of the cutting. Okay. Now, when we square this off, this part will be gone. Okay. So now we're going to flip to the other side and we're going to do number 5, which is bumped up against the line between the 2 and the 5. So let's go ahead and do that fold. And then pull the fabric down, making sure it's flat. Grab your add a quarter ruler and go ahead and make that cut. There we go. And then we're going to put that back down. Now, number 5 again is the light fabric, and it's using the same square that you just cut. So we're going to go ahead and grab that other piece. Put these out. And again, right sides together. So if you're doing that light fabric, you want to make sure that you're going to put this lined up correctly. So again, this is where you're going to have that right angle here towards that bottom, because when you flip it, you want it to cover the entire number 5 piece. So line this up. And then hold that down and flip it over and take it to your sewing machine. Oops, kind of move that a little bit. You line it up again. There we go. Okay. Keep moving it just a tad. There we are. Okay. So here we are. Again, we're going to start a little bit before the line. So we'll line that up. And then again, you want to hit these tiny little dots. Make sure that you're hitting that. Okay. Cut those threads a little bit. I have all these threads that I didn't cut. Okay. And let's see here. We hit it right on that point. You guys can see that. And the other point as well. Let's see if I can bend this a little bit so you guys can see it better. There we go. We are right on that dot. Okay. And then again, flip it over, lay this flat, grab your roller, and kind of relax the fibers into the place where you need them to be. And then take that over to your iron and give it a little press. Okay. And there you are. So this is the first of the 4 pieces that you're going to make. You're going to follow these exact same steps to do the other 3 pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the other 3 pieces. And then tomorrow I'm going to show you how we line this all up and kind of make the final product and then square it off. And so you'll see where all these little points come into play, okay, because that's where you're going to be really tricky, and I want to take my time in showing you guys that, so in order for you to be successful. So while we have this piece now, what you can do is kind of flip this over and trim it off. You can do that now, or you could trim it in the very end. So it's pretty much up to you. I prefer to just kind of trim it while I have it so that this is nice and squared. So I want to go ahead and line up my ruler. And it tells you here, first trim line, and it has a bunch of dots. You can see them here. Okay, you can see the little dots there. That's where you're going to be trimming it to. And so you'll go ahead and line this up and trim the excess. If you have a little bit of a longer ruler, you can do this one. I'm doing it with a 6.5-inch ruler, and it looks like it's going to be just fine. So I can go ahead and trim that. And just take away that excess. And you can see here, it becomes a little difficult because you have a lot of bulk there. So just take your time. There we go. See, and you have that nice and trimmed off, and then you can flip it to the other side and do the same thing. Let's see. Can you cut your material pieces bigger to make the placement easier and trim more? Yes, you can. You can actually. I did that when I did the courthouse blocks. Let me see if I can show you that. So for the courthouse blocks, it requested for you to cut at 1.5 inch, and I did 1 3/4. And then you just trim off. It gives you a little bit more waste on the fabric, but if your cutting is not precise, just do about 1/4 inch bigger than what they're telling you to do. You'll have a little bit of waste, but you're guaranteed that you'll be able to cover the whole thing, and it really won't make a difference because you're trimming on the lines as you go. And as long as you follow the directions and you trim on those lines, it's just a little bit of more waste that you're going to have. I did it that way for the courthouse steps block. I didn't really need to do it on this one. It gives you a lot of flexibility, but if you're still not comfortable, if you're a little uneasy, just add a little 1/4 inch to it. And that's it. It's not going to matter because you're going to trim it off later. Because as you do the add of 1/4 piece where you start trimming, that's where you're trimming it to those lines. And then now towards the end, when we're just trimming that outer piece, you're not going to have to worry because you're trimming that piece off. So this is the extra waste that I have. So if you add a 1/4 inch to your size, you'll just have a 1/4 inch more to trim off on the end. And if you made a little boo-boo and went a little over or under, you'll just have that extra there. It's not going to matter. So you can totally do that. If that makes you a little bit more comfortable, yes, go for it. So let's see. You can see here it didn't cut right on there. There we go. And so now I have one of the 4 pieces needed for my star. Okay? And so you're going to, and you can see it on here, this is what you're building towards. So you can see here, this is one piece right here. See how I lined that up? This is one piece. And so you'll see, if I flip this over, you can see here the little points, the little dots. That's what you're going to use to kind of line this up when you start assembling this together, right? So we've already done all our folds. We've done all our cuts of our fabrics. We've got them piled up ready to go. Now you've learned how to go ahead and do each of the 4 pieces. And so tomorrow we're going to have all 4 of our pieces all done, and we're going to assemble this together to make the one block. Okay? Yeah, it's very pretty. It comes out very nice at the end. And, you know, I was a little bit nervous about this star. And honestly, you know, in the end, look, this is the back of it. You know, it really comes out nice if you take your time and really line this up. The trick will be lining it up on these points, and I'm going to show you what I did to be able to do that, and it came out pretty good. So I'm going to continue and make the other 3 stars, so I'm going to ask you guys to have a little bit of homework as well. So if you're following me along, go ahead and make your other 3 the exact same way that we did this one, okay? Just make sure you're using the scrappy fabric so you have different fabrics all the way around. Unless you wanted to use the same one, you can totally do that also. And then once you have that in place, we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to assemble this together. Okay, so let's see. I know Becky is on a cruise, so we won't be heading over to Power Tools with Threads today, but I wanted to kind of get the other segments in. So let's go over to our inspirational quote of the day, shall we? Okay, so today's quote of the day is, "Small steps every day are what get quilts finished and dreams fulfilled." Yes, it is the small steps that we take. So as we tackle each of these projects, you just take things one at a time, small steps at a time, and you will just be amazed with what you end up with. So don't get overwhelmed. We're doing this step by step. And as you can see here, we've got this all together now. We're just going to repeat this now 3 more times to do the other 3 papers. So I'm really excited for those of you that are following me along. Go ahead and post your progress on our Facebook page, because I really love to see how you guys are coming along with your stars. And I hope that you guys are able to spend some time in your craft room today, and we'll be able to kind of, get some of that going. So let's see here. We've got one more segment left, and that is our top comedy 5. So we can go over to that. But it looks like, looks like everyone is coming along. I don't see any questions specifically on that. So I think we're good. Let's go to our top comedy 5 and get our giggle for the day. Okay, so today's is, "You might be a crafter if your idea of a wild night is," number 5, "saying, 'I'll sleep when the bobbin's done.'" Isn't that true? We all like to kind of chase that bobbin. All right, number 4, "You might be a crafter if your idea of a wild night is," "getting tipsy on starch fumes while ironing your fabric like it's happy hour." Yeah, I guess we can get a little bit of that. All right, number 3, "You might be a crafter if your idea of a wild night is," "applauding yourself for sewing a straight line just like you won the Olympic Games." Woohoo! Yes, I'm definitely a champion for that. It's exciting when we get that done. All right, number 2, "You might be a crafter if your idea of a wild night is," sniffing newly purchased fabric like it's fine wine. Yeah, I think I'm a little guilty of that. I don't know what it is. Sometimes, you gotta touch it, you gotta feel it, you gotta smell it, you just know it's there. It's fabric. Alrighty, so the number 1, you might be a crafter if your idea of a wild night is singing GiftsHQ crafting tunes to your sewing machine. Yes! I love my sewing machine. And I sing to it all the time. I like to play my little tunes, and I like to sing while I craft. Why not, right? Anything to get you inspired, right, guys? Awesome. So this is just the fun that we like to have on this channel. I hope you guys really enjoyed yourselves, and I hope you have a pleasant long weekend. Enjoy your day, and everyone, spend some time with friends, family, and get in your craft room and just make something amazing. I hope that you guys really enjoyed today's segment. We'll be back tomorrow morning to continue on our Woven Star, and I hope to see you there. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope you liked my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space